This is getting mad. Have you ever wanted Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord to maybe turn into an RTS game? Some sort of, I don't know, Age of Empires, the grandfather of all strategies. Yeah, well, now you can see that. Well, Block, our favourite modder that hides in the shadows, decided to upload a video last night called Age of Bannerlord, turning Mount & Blade 2 into, well, an RTS. Building from the ground up, with a lord, a town, building villages, and of course lumberjack yards, growing resources and building an army to finally attack the enemy, in this case AI base. Let's delve a little bit deeper into this though. First on the cards, you must pick your starting lord. Let's play as King Harless. Why not? He has all the butter, he's going to take our castles anyway, we might as well play as him and then we get all the benefits. You also choose your faction. Let's go with Valandia. You choose the map, the season and the time of day, much like you would in many other custom battles, and this looks like to be what has happened here, a completely modded custom battle. Maybe eventually when multiplayer comes out, imagine this in multiplayer, how cool would this be? But I'm assuming at the moment it's played against an AI opponent, as we'll see in a little bit later. You load into a spectator kind of view, although it's not quite that. You're not watching anything, you are still playing, you are way in the game at the moment. You're using some similar controls to what I understand from the RTS battle camera, or even the deployment options that we have in the native of Bannerlord now, where you go in and spawn in, seeing your troops below you, and you have this over-the-top view, being able to move them around and order them like that. That could have been one way that this has been implemented in, or it could be using some of the map-making tools, as we'll get onto a little bit, because you're able to do a lot of things here. You can see in the bottom left your population and the resources you have. You have ore or stone, you have wood, you've got food, and you start with a town centre. Here you can build villages or townspeople. You can see in the back corner there, if we zoom in quickly, the AI is doing the same thing in the distance as well, moving along as you would expect through this Age of Empires style Bannerlord RTS. But what exactly can you do once you have villages? What can they accomplish? In Age of Empires, they could do construction, houses, barracks, all that kind of stuff. They could chop down trees, gain new resources, and of course fight off the odd wolf if push came to shove. But in here, they can build houses, of course, to boost the population, farms that will gain new resources that are made from the assets of farms that are already in Bannerlord, barracks, of course, where you recruit your infantry, stables where you recruit your cavalry, archery ranges where you recruit your, well, archers, towers which we don't actually get to have a look at, but I'm assuming they work in a similar way to towers in Age of Empires, of being able to place them down in certain defensive positions, firing out arrows, or eventually maybe even being upgraded. You can once again build more town centers, walls if you want to go in the defensive, play the turtle style, lumber yards for getting wood, and of course quarries for getting stone. Once clicking on one of these options, they will display as a construction site, and they'll slowly be built by your villagers. I love the transition between them. It's kind of basic at the moment, from recently placed construction to a full-size building, but this is probably the earliest playable version that we've seen from Block so far. Then you can assign people, townspeople, to work on said sites, like the lumberyard and the quarry. I mean, look at this lumberyard here. It's been placed down, it's been built by King Harless, then a villager is assigned to work on it. They have full animations for chopping wood at the lumberyard. The same is then done with the quarry later on. The animation that I personally love the most is quarrying and mining, the guy with the pickaxe there, and of course sound effects to fit. Next, they build houses. Once a house has been completed, it will increase your population by 5, much like in Age of Empires, going up from being able to have 5 to 10 people to 15 to 20, so on and so forth. Farms are then placed down to increase food production, and then finally we get to the barracks, the place where all the good and juicy troop action comes from. Once these are up, you're able to train certain troops from spearmen or swordsmen, much like once again in Age of Empires. This is all working in conjunction with whichever faction that you're playing as and you picked at the start. In this case, Valandians, so you can only recruit Valandian swords and Valandian spearmen. But maybe you want to play as the Sturgians, then you'll have the Sturgian infantry within your game. I'm assuming it's using the exact same stats as what you would get in the Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord campaign, so Valandian cavalry will be, well, more powerful than Sturgian cavalry. Crusates will get horse archers, while the Ezrai will get javelin men. Once again, these are assumptions because we can't see that here, but it would make sense, and I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be implemented, since it's already been made for Bannerlord. You can even do some smaller, more micromanaging things, like grouping up infantry, cavalry, and archers. Clicking on the troop will show all their stats as well, how much health they have, and then you can put them in separate groups or all one big group to command them about. But once the army is big enough, it is time for attack. Get together all your infantry, of course your cavalry as well, and King Harness there, he can do a good amount of damage, and charge towards the enemy. By the way, if you look in the top corner there, that's some nice farm placement by the AI. I'm sure the AI is incredibly basic at the moment. It's blowing my mind that they can even do this sort of thing, placing all these buildings, recruiting troops and things like that, but it's kind of funny where they put that farm there. Troops will also get out torches and burn down buildings, much like Age of Empires 3. I mean, the buildings go down pretty fast, almost instantly if I'm going to be honest, but hey, it's once again still a work in progress, and I'm sure these things can be tweaked depending on the level of building, whether it's a bigger thing like a town centre or a castle eventually, or whether it's just a house that will go down much faster, or a farm that will somehow set on fire from being hit by a sword. You can see that AI has also built troops, and when I say troops I mean one cavalryman in the back. So they're not great at the moment. The AI is pretty piss poor, but they can still once again do everything that the player can do, which blows my mind how it's been made to work that way. Being able to play against multiple AI would be an amazing thing. That's my favorite thing on Age of Empires, and then being able to bring other players in. I know I'm getting way too far ahead of myself at the moment, but this offers up so much potential for the future. But here's where it gets cool. You see, on this front it would just be Age of Empires and its gameplay put into Bannerlord in a basic way, right? But Bannerlord is also giving something back. The fact that you can go down and control troops of your own, clicking on any of the guys that you've recruited, or even King Harness, the Lord himself, and take control of them. Whether you want to ride on horseback, be an archer at the back, pinging shots into the enemy's heads, or play as infantry on the front line. Not only can you command them RTS style from the top, but you can pick a unit and take control of it, which is something that Age of Empires could and would never have. That is something so unique to Bannerlord, and it did the same with Total War. Mount and Blade, if you don't know, was vastly inspired by many games like Sid Meier's Pirates and all that sort of thing, but I think mostly, at least later on, Warband really came into its own with that Total War style, but putting you in the world itself. It was much smaller than anything Total War had, but it decided to make it way more personal by not only having you controlling troops on the battlefield, but you were playing as one of the troops, something that I always wanted to do in a Total War game or an Age of Empires game, but we've never been able to do until they put it into Bannerlord. And that's the unique ability that Bannerlord offers to these other gameplay styles. Whilst this RTS element is being brought into the game, Bannerlord itself is bringing its own touch to it, which I think is going to make it so much more unique and the biggest selling point for all these mods. And look, I get this is incredibly basic at the moment. The AI is a little bit rubbish. There's still not that much you can do, and I'm assuming all the stats that Age of Empires has and all the effectors and all the buffs and things aren't even attempted in this mod at the moment. But this is so much more than that, because it is the building blocks for something so big. I mean, I doubt there's anything as complex as resource exhaustion or farm exhaustion when you farm them too much, but in general, I think this has to be one of the most impressive things I've seen in the game so far. Block, once again, has blown my mind, and I think all of you guys will probably be completely in awe of what he's managed to do here. It is absolutely fantastic. What could we see of this in the future? At the moment, Block isn't offering any of their mods ready for download, but maybe this could be implemented later on. I would love to be able to play some Age of Empires style battles, especially when we're getting custom servers coming very soon in the base game, which means multiplayer modding tools will be released. That means we could have matches, full competitions, full tournaments within this Bannerlord Age of Empires crossover. I am absolutely blown away, and I think it's only going to go up from here. We've all been waiting for some sort of mod, sword and musket, to release for Bannerlord to recreate what we had back in the day with the NW DLC, but I think this is the closest we're going to get so far. Holdfast tried it, but they didn't quite succeed, I think, the way many people wanted them to. But on the 15th of May, we'll be getting our hands on Battlecry Freedom Age of Napoleon, and I am so